Hello everybody, let's get back to the book after a couple of videos of trying to get the resolver to work. We are now ready to keep reading. So the first thing that we want to do is to make this kind of thing an error. Because you can override a variable this way in the global scope, but in a local scope it's not okay. I mean, it's probably an error. If we imagine we have this line at the beginning of the function, then a bunch of code after, and then this line like somewhere buried in the second, in a second block of code, it's probably a mistake that we're trying to override I mean, this is something you can decide for yourself, but let's try to make it a mistake. So go into the source folder, and I think we should do it down here. In the declare function. Right, so if there's no scopes, we don't do anything. And then we can say if self-scope size -1 contains, I think. So now we kind of have a problem because we don't have any error reporting here. So let's check in the main function just how it looks. There's a bunch of junk. Okay, so we have resolve many, which does return a result. So basically we can just make this one have the same type, which should be like this. And then we can just return an error redefining a variable. Let's say a variable with this name is already in scope. And now let's see where this thing is called. It should now be unwrapped like that. And let's do a quick test. And that didn't work. Because that is not a string. And now this one has to return. Okay. Yeah, contains key, sure. And this has to be a reference. I should really install Rust Analyzer, but I haven't gotten around to that. So now if we say, this should be fine, but if we say a equals 2, a equals 3, that was just wrong syntax. Yeah, now it says a variable with this name is already in scope. So that was quite easy. Something that's annoying is that, let's say I do like that, and then I press the up key, it just does this. So we could add some kind of history to the REPL, but I'm not gonna do that right now. But that's maybe an idea for a different video. So if we see a collision, we report an error. Sure. Here is another nice little script. Okay, so now we want to avoid that return statements are at an incorrect point. So what I'm going to do is to add an enum that's called a function type, similar to what he has down here. There'll be a none, there'll be a function, And that's it for now. Then the resolver should have a field called current function, which is a function type, and it will be initialized to function type none. And then what we want to do is, when we are resolving a function, where's that? That code is here. We enter into resolve function, and then we should say self that current function is function type function. And once it is fully resolved, so let's say this one we need to now unwrap, and then we have to say now we are out of a function. So we put none, and then we have to return OK. And then we have to do something. When we resolve function declaration, we pass that in. Okay, so we just set that, but maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll need to pass in a variable later. But anyway, in resolve function, we take that parameter. We need to right. So because there can be a function definition inside another function. So let's say enclosing function. And now I really want to have, this to be a copy. So here we copy it, and then we shouldn't say none. We should say enclosing function. Right, let's check it. And when you have copy, you have to have clone for whatever reason. I'm not sure why I'm running it, but that's fine. Kind of meant to do check. But now, where were we? We're here in resolve function. Now we also want to use this for something. Yeah, you can nest functions arbitrarily deeply. We need to track that. Yeah, whatever. Interesting, we don't have this scope, but it's in the helper, I guess. Resolve function helper. So it could whatever. Let's keep it like this. Okay, so now we have this return statement, and right, so now we want to say if the current function is no function, then we want to return an error that says return statement not allowed outside of a function. And otherwise nothing. And then, because I have in my infinite wisdom decided that we need two return statement cases, one where the value is none, when it's not, one where it's not none. You know what, let's not do that. Let's say this always holds, and then we say if let some value equals value, then we call this resolve thing. It's a little bit better. And now we can get rid of this. And I feel like there's one too many. Maybe like that. Yes, let's try to run it. And it needs to be eq, partial eq. Okay. Now we're good. Let's just try this one again for fun. So that doesn't work. What if we say return something? Doesn't work. Return on its own doesn't work. So that's great. So he has to do this if had error return, but we already handle that here. We resolve many. And then this unwrap operator, error unwrap thing, that if there is an error, we just exit out of the function entirely. So that's already handled, which is great. Anyway, we could go further or report warnings for code that isn't necessarily wrong, but probably isn't useful. Yeah, you can look at unreachable code or unused variables. Yeah, the important part is that we fixed that one annoying edge case box, though it might be surprising that it took this much work to do it. Yeah. It definitely took a lot of work. So that was it for this chapter. And now it looks like we're going to add classes. But before we get to that, let's add the things we just did to a test, to some test cases. So I want to say just this one, why not? And it should return something. So let's just look at the exact phrasing. A variable with this name is already in scope. A variable but this name is already in scope. Great. Now let's call it loose return. And it's just going to be a return like this, 1, 2, 3. And the expected behavior is return is not allowed outside a function. Something like that. Let's run it again. Loose return. Return statement is not allowed outside of a function. Statement. And before we get too crazy, let's check that we didn't break anything. And we did break something. Because it says no expected section. That is weird. So this one, because it has to be 3. And then there was multiple. And return statement not allowed. It also writes error, which is weird, but okay. So it writes error. And let's try that. Okay, return statement. Actually, I want to go into the resolver, return statement, and write return statement is. And now we have to add this error thing, error to that one. And now it's complaining about this one again. Return statement is not. It's like there's an extra new line. And I wonder why that happens. Return statement is not allowed outside a function, so it's probably in main where we actually get the error. So an error would happen here. It would go somewhere like, so we're doing run file. Actually, I'll run string, I guess. Right, so it just prints the message after the new line. There shouldn't be any extra new line. That is interesting. Am I missing something super obvious? Ah. It's because we use, oh, not there. It's because we use print line, I guess. So how about we just do print? Maybe it's a bit weird. Not sure I like that. I think we want the line. But it just means that in this one, for example, we need to add like an empty one, which is also not nice, but output length does not match expected output. So maybe it's something completely different. So we have the expected output and actual output. Oh, wait. So output length and then the expected output. So why does it think the expected output is 1? It's in another one. It's in pipe now. Not like that. It's in cases, pipe 3. Oh, it thinks this is like outside. Okay, that's not good. So probably here we have to say let in closing function equals self.current function, current function, self.current function is function type function, and this one can return an error, so we have to say please unwrap, and let's format it, and then we restore the function to what it was before. There we go. And we need to return OK. Let's try that now. Tests, cases, pipe 3. So it ran. Let's try all the tests. Okay, great. So this one was also important, which may tell us that it really should be an argument here, because then it's like harder to forget. So I'm actually gonna do that. I'm gonna add it here. Get away with this, away with this. This one is not necessary. And then resolve function, fn, this one. And then we have to tell this guy that that we actually wanted to say that we're resolving a function and don't need to unwrap. Why is there like a random p in line 242? Okay, so now we don't need this. And resolve function helper. It should take a, I don't know, resolving function, which is a function type. And then we will simply say enclosing function, self.current function, self.current function equals resolving function. And once we are done, we will say self.current function, so closing function. Let's try the tests again. And we are good. Okay, it's kind of a short but sweet video because I think that this class's topic is quite big, just judging from this. And I think we should get started on that in the next video. So I will see you in the next one.